Hello, good evening. Today is Tammuz. Tomorrow, being that it was Shabbos, tomorrow is a fast day. These are very special times. These 3 weeks, and they are chock full of inherent brachas for those who have the zchus to be mourning on Yerushalayim during that time. So, B'ezrat Hashem.
Thank you so much.
Go plug it in. It's on the couch here.
Right. So we will start B'ezrat Hashem with our 2 Sipurey Tzaddikim, and then we'll get to Sichos Haran for this week. The first story, it's the stories you can see the Ruach HaKodesh or these Gevaldige Tzaddikim in the stories that we read. Sometimes a person is afflicted with Morosh Chayra and sadness. Morosh Chayra is like depression. Bifrat b'shat tefillah, especially during davening, when all kinds of doubts, come to a person's mind, that perhaps I didn't behave the way I should have. Maybe chas v'chalila is an isur, or so a person can fall into mashchara. The Gabe this Inyan, Rabbeinu Nachman of Breslov said a story from Baal Shem Tov, which is very uncommon amongst the traditional stories of Baal Shem Tov, that the Baal Shem Tov was all about moifsin and all about, supernatural perfection that never suffered any kind of doubts and struggles. And so he said as follows: one time Baal Shem Tov was standing to daven, and he couldn't daven. The reason why I couldn't daven, because there was a certain confusion that came into his thought, because the Baal Shem Tov, like many of the Tzaddikim after him during that era, he used to smoke a pipe, and the pipe that they were smoking, they were making yichudim, different kind of avodas Hashem that they were doing. And he lit the pipe with a candle that was made from tallow. Now, the Baal Shem Tov, he had a minhag not to use a candle made of tallow, because tallow we know is not kosher. Even though there's no isur in using a candle made of tallow, because there's no isur hana in chaylev, in tallow. Plus, you can take a tallow and even of a non-kosher behemoth and polish leather or whatever it is. There's no. So Hashem had a minhag, and it so happened that he actually lit his pipe with a tallow candle. And the Baal Shem Tov felt he was so bothered by that he has it was a chumrah that he was accustomed to, and he felt so bad about it that he was totally broken. As much as he tried to push this thought away, it would not go away. And in fact, Rabbeinu said that it shook him so badly, and it demoralized him to the point that Baal Shem Tov felt that Chas Chalila, that he's dying, that his neshama will leave his body. From Tsar, how could I do something like So when Baal Shem Tov saw that this is the effect that he has on him, even though there's no Isser, but it was a Kabbalah that this accepted himself, that the Baal Shem Tov realized that this is just the Sichos Haran, this is Sichos Haran. And immediately he had made a resolve, made in the Shvuah, whatever it is, made a resolve. And from that moment on, he's going to light up his pipe only with a candle made of tallow. This is a very, very important nekuda that has to do with today's parsha, that as it is taken, as it comes out of Torah number 8 in the second Chelek Likutei Moharan, Rabbeinu says that in order to admonish someone, you have to make sure that you don't break them, but you strengthen them. Any kind of admonishment that breaks a person comes from Sitra Achra. It does not come from Kedusha. So Baal Shem Tov realized that if this chumrah that he accepted upon himself has such an effect on him, it was breaking him, that it is for sure from the Sitra Achra. To the point that he accepted from that moment on, he will only use a candle of tallow. Very important. Let's go with the second story for this evening. The story today is from the saintly Rav HaKodesh Rebbe Reborach of Mezhibozh, who was the grandson of the Baal Shem Tov, of the famous Tzaddikim of the generation. Once upon a time, there's a big affliction of cholera on the Yidden, and they went, amongst the area, and the Yidden suffered greatly, and they went to the Rebbe Baruch to daven for them, so that the Megefa will go away. So he told them, go to this village, it's not far, and look for a person that his name is this, and the name of his father is so and so, and don't, I think that we once said the story about the Baal Shem Tov, but we'll say it again. He says, and don't stop until he said, Be'ezer Hashem Kadosh Baruch Hu will take this trouble off you, this affliction off you. So they went to this village, being absolutely certain, we're talking about a huge tzaddik. He came to the town. They said, there's no tzaddik in this town but this name. So how can they say? The Rebbe said, we should look for him. So they started looking anybody that's his name and his father's name. Until somebody told them, what do you want from him? This is just a drunkard that is is so drunk he doesn't know from left and right. So they went to this person and they told him that the Rebbe, the Baruch Benjamin, sent them to him. And his wife said, she was laughing, and says, who are you coming to? You see that he's slumbering, he's, out for the count, he's like totally drunk. And she said, he used to be very, very wealthy, and became an alcoholic. The minute he gets up, he takes, bottle of bourbon or vodka or whatever it is, whatever the muscat that was in their area, he would drink and would lose consciousness. He drank, and he says, if you want to talk to him, you have to wait until, you wake up from stupor, probably with a stupendous hangover. So they asked her, of his conduct, didn't find any kedusha, none. But they had great amount. The Rebbe said, this is who he is. So they waited there. So he woke up and he wanted to take, he took, the liquor to drink. So these people told him that the Rebbe both told him that he should decree that the cholera should leave them. So Rebbe says, no problem, just let me just take a shot, of that whiskey, and then I'll tell him. He says, no. We're not going anywhere. You cannot drink anything until you decree that the cholera would leave us. And he said, okay, Kadosh Baruch Hu, the big Rachmim, Zat Hashem, will take away all afflictions and all plagues from you. Now leave me alone and give him my whiskey or whatever. So they left him. They went to Meshigosh. They realized what time it was when he said. And so it happened. When he said the plague will leave, it did. It left. It was an amazing thing. He came back to Rebbe Baruch and he asked him, because obviously there's a big mystery here. What's the secret? That person, is a drunkard. You call a wino, you call a hobo, you can find many different names for him, but a drunk is a drunk. And he said that his behavior is just like, one of the simplest people in Israel. So his Rebbe told him, listen to me. Let me tell you the power of a single mitzvah. That person was a big merchant. Well, big, I mean, really, really big. And he was a gorgeous, gorgeous man. And when he came to a widow of one of the ministers, and she saw him, and she became very attracted to him. And she told him, listen, marry me. And he says, what do you need the wife that you have? I have much more money than you will ever have on your own. Marry me, everything that I own will belong to you. Not only this, but you'll become a very important minister among all ministers. So the man says, I'm going to do this. I'm going to listen to what you're saying, but you have to first of all make this big ball, this really big shindig for all the ministers. Everybody should know who I am. And from now on, I'm becoming this big minister, which is for sure. She called out, hired musicians, catering, the whole shebang. And that person went and prepared himself to marry this woman because he liked her, and the idea of having, we're talking about, like billions of dollars, comparatively. We're talking about, big time. And he was there, and she made a big ball, and he was there with all the ministers, and he was there, got to know everyone. Cigars were passed around, a good time was had by all. And just before dawn, and everybody went home. And before he actually, went to be with her, he went, outside to relieve himself. That's the way it used to be in those days. And he had people groaning. And this was Jews that were there. They were in the dungeon because they had, there were taxes they needed to pay. Those times, if the Jews did not pay taxes, they were, they were incarcerated, put in dungeons, them and their families, until the Jews came up with as much money that was necessary and released them. And he went to ask, he felt very sorry for them. But they said, well, what did they do? Why are they here? So they told him. And when he heard this, he went to this woman, that this noble woman, and told her, you have to release these people. You must let them go. Just forgive their debts and just let them go. So she did that. And he took a wagon and he released them. He did such a huge mitzvah of Pidyon Shvun. A mitzvah, Gorat mitzvah, And he says, what am I going to do here? Be one with a goita, chas v'chalila, I'm going to sin to Kadosh Baruch Hu, Shem Yerachem. He took a wagon with good horses and ran away. And we're not doing Avera, just give it all up. And that thing that he did, the Pidyon Shvuyim, that he ransomed the prisoners, and the tshuva that he did on that big Avera that he was about to do, they made a decree in Shemaim that he would be a b'chinas tzaddik goyzer v'kadosh baruch hu mekayim. Everything that he says that will become so. Well, as you can imagine, Mechut Shemaim, the detracting angels did not like that one little bit. He says, okay, that you'll just go ahead and start, canceling all the decrees, and Midas Adin will cease. So Midas Adin said, okay, listen, we'll make him a drunkard. And he will be drunk constantly, without end, to the point he doesn't even know what's going on in the world. And it was a big sakana to go to him, because he will decree, Bedis Shomala, on the one thing that was Negeya, was negea to Klal Yisrael that the Magefa, will stop, the plague will go away. The Rebbe Baal said, then I had to use it. Usually it is a danger to use such an unbridled power. From this Maisa, a person can know until where the koyach of a mitzvah, how far it reaches. Yatzor HaKadosh Baruch Hu B'ezrat Hashem Kol Rachamov will give us a big Yeshua to do mitzvahs, masim tovim, to do nachas rotim. His Baruch B'ezrat Hashem should save us from all bad. B'ezrat Hashem. It's a shtickle nekuda. There's negea to this. We don't realize what it means to be alive. We know all the fancy words around it. Believe them more, believe them less, but we don't really know what it means. When you do this or when you do that. Rabbi Nachman says, a person for a pleasure, for a 15-minute pleasure, a person is capable of giving up this world and the next world. That's to the bad. You can imagine how much it is to the good. 15 minutes of discomfort, 15 minutes of keeping yourself from doing something that I shouldn't do. What it means in Shemayim. This world is filled with difficulty. These difficulties have in them tremendous koyach to get us Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba. Let's take a quick look in Sichos Haran for this week and see what Rabbeinu HaKodesh has to tell us. We are holding by teaching number 132, Kuf Lamed Beis. In the Kutim Haran, the first Chelek, Siman Yedalad, it says Tiku Lamshich Shalom, to bring peace to the world. Rabbeinu says Shabbos Chanukah, and that around that time was the passing of the very famous Rabbi Chassid, Reinu of Gdalia, Zecher Tzadik Livrocho, the Av Beis Din of Kilos Linetz. And that Torah, Rabbeinu hinted in the Torah a eulogy for that Rav. And he said in that Torah that Chazal said, you're not allowed to eulogize in Chanukah. But he says it's also very difficult to take Torah now, because when a tzaddik leaves this world, it's very hard to say Torah, because every tzaddik has his own part of the Torah. And when he leaves this world, he lived this world with his part of Torah. Every tzaddik has a chelek in the Torah. So that's why it's very difficult to say Torah. And this is what they said over there in Torah Dalet on the Ma'amar Chazal. Why Talmidei Chachamim, their children, are not automatically Talmidei Chachamim. So Chazal said in Maseches Nedarim in the Gemara, Al shelo berchu b'Torah tchila, they did not make a bracha on the Torah first. And in the beginning, I heard from Rabbeinu Zechon more about that the kind of children that the person has, it comes after according to the food that the person eats first. That's why every person has to bless and sanctify the beginning. When the second, in other words, that which is the beginning and precedes the act of giving birth. In other words, the eating and all a person's conduct. When you do this, you'll pull Hoiloda B'Kedusha V'Tahara properly. And the meaning is, Al Shalabecha B'Torah Tchilo, that they did not bless Torah Tchilo, that Torah which comes B'Tchilo, that comes before the beginning. Kedusha is Torah the Aschola, before the, because you have to inject bracha and kedusha the beginning of the Hariloda. Then his son will also be a Talmid Chacham. These 3 weeks that we are entering today, L'maisa, the whole thing is one big eulogy from the Istalkos of the Tzaddik. Because Beis HaMikdash, all the Kedusha of the Beis HaMikdash was not the wood and stone the Beis HaMikdash was made of. It was the spiritual Kedusha of the Beis HaMikdash. And the spiritual Kedusha of Beis HaMikdash is derived from the Kedusha of the Tzaddik. The Tzaddik is the conduit for the Kedusha that fills the Beis HaMikdash. And when a Tzaddik passes away, that is akin to the burning and destruction of Beis HaMikdash. That's where Rabbeinu said that Tzaddik is a chelik in the Torah. When a Tzaddik passes away, the Beis HaMikdash, it's a mechin of Beis HaMikdash getting burned. We'll talk about it more in Shem in the coming weeks until Tisha B'Av in Shem. But the main point is that it says in Beis HaMikdash, it says that's the place 3 times a year. All your mail will come to see the face of your master Hashem. So the word Yireh can be read, Yireh will be seen. It also says Yireh will see the face of Hashem, Beis HaMikdash. The Chachamim, the Tzaddikim are called the eyes of the congregation. Because the only one who actually see. Rabbeinu says in the main seeing, as B'ezrat Hashem, we'll get to Eretz Zayin, we'll learn B'ezrat Hashem before Tisha B'Av. The main inyan is to see oneself, is to be able to keep your hand on your own pulse, to be able to tell where you're really holding in the world. When the tzaddik leaves the world, Beis HaMikdash is destroyed. We are losing that sight. Then we're starting to see all kinds of fantasies, all kinds of theories. Even Mitzvah Shel HaKdusha, I'm not just talking about outside, forget about that. They don't know what the heck is going on. But even inside, they don't know. The eyes, the tzaddik is the Eina Tzaddikim, so as we start the 3 weeks, should remember that it's a huge schus to bemoan and to mourn the destruction of Beis HaMikdash, because within that mourning lies the Yeshua, the promise. All those who bemoan and mourn the destruction of Yerushalayim, Zocher are Zocher to see the Simcha of Yerushalayim. Because it's within that morning lies an awareness. And when you don't even have the awareness yet, but you're working towards it. You're trying to feel it. You're trying to get to that position by davening, saying slichas, whatever it is that you do. With this, you are acquiring the promise to see B'ezrat Hashem in Binyan Yerushalayim. B'ezrat Hashem, Kodesh Baruch Hu should help us. We will stop here. The hour is getting late, and B'ezrat Hashem should all have easy fast, and B'ezrat Hashem a good week, full with Yeshuas, B'ezrat Hashem with Hatzlacha. B'ezrat Hashem, we will see each other again, hopefully on Monday night during Sipurey. Thank you and good night and good luck.